All right. Hey, welcome to the Reach Keep podcast, and we're good to have you here. Today we're talking about connection cards and bad habits, and looking forward to having a good discussion here. I have an interview with a good friend of mine, Dave Carlson from Manchester, New Hampshire, and we'll be joining him in just a few moments here. You might notice that I called this the Reach Keep podcast. If you're paying attention, we have a couple different things. We have the Better Sundays podcast, which is our shorter format, sort of tips and tactical type of things. And we've been doing some longer podcasts and really have enjoyed it, some interviews and some different things. And so we're kind of rebranding those a little bit, and we're just calling them more of a long format podcast where we can discuss an interview and do a little bit more talk about strategy. So that's kind of what you're getting today. It's a longer format as usual. It's just a good old practical, usable, focused kind of stuff. And we hope it is great for you and it helps you out. These are, like say, a little bit more in the 30, 40-minute length or whatever, but there's more teaching, more training, more content than we could get in our 6 to 12-minute podcasts that we normally do. For both podcasts, you can catch them both on our YouTube channel. They both reside in the same place, and you'll be able to see them on the same feed there. And of course, if you've never subscribed, go ahead and do that, and you'll get notifications of these if you hit the little bell. And that means that when we post one, it'll come up and you'll be able to watch it right away, or otherwise you'll have to just check on it, or it'll come up in your feed. So as always, we appreciate the subscriptions, but I just got my report back the other day from YouTube from all the different things we did, and we had way more shares than I thought we ever had. I mean, I didn't realize, and it's not always easy to know exactly how it's being shared, but when you hit that little share button beneath, then you can get a link and you can paste it into Facebook. You can paste the link into email, you can text it to somebody. There's all sorts of things you can do. So if something is helpful, and oftentimes it's kind of like when you're reading the Bible, you read the Bible and you go, oh, that's a really good verse, and it really touches your heart. Sometimes you read the Bible and go, oh, that's a really good verse. I need to send that to somebody because it'll help them. And we appreciate it when you do that type of stuff. So we're talking about the connection cards, and we'll get into those in much more detail here. And we're talking about the bad habits that they fix. And every person that comes to church, I wouldn't say every person, but many people come to church have some bad habits. I'll just kind of rattle through a few of them here real quick, just because that's kind of what the focus is here. Then we're going to have Dave on here and get right into this interview with him. So some people come and just sit at church. Sit. That's what they do. I think that's a bad habit. Some people don't have the what I call the no step habit. In other words, they don't have anything planned beyond church. They come to church and then it's over and they're done. It would be like watching a TV show or something. You don't necessarily have plans. You just kind of come, do the thing, and leave. So some sit and some just don't move, I guess would be the idea, sort of the no next step thing. And then there's one more bad habit, and it's kind of the relational blockade. It's sort of kind of cross the arms, and I'm here. I'm going to be in church. I'm going to listen, and they might be really listening, paying attention, but they're not allowing any relational advancement. And we know that the Bible is filled with one another commands, and connection cards can help with every one of these bad habits. And so we're going to jump into this. This is Dave went through some of our coaching. I'll just play it and we'll go from there. So here's my good friend Dave Carlson from New Hampshire. All right. Hey, I'm here with Dave Carlson from New Hampshire, Manchester, right? I get that?
Yes.
Didn't you say it's the largest city north of Boston or something once you told me?
Yes. Largest city
in
north
all of America, or just in the New England area? Or?
Probably New England.
Wow. Okay. It was kind of funny. I was talking to somebody, I told them Manchester, and they're like, I never even heard of it. It's a...
That's kept secret in America.
Is it? Yeah, a little tucked up there. So, but anyway, it's good to have Dave here. He's a pastor of Gospel Baptist Church, and I believe you planted the church. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how long you started and kind of got going there, and just give me kind of the brief rundown on your church there.
Okay, so God called me to start a church when I was in Bible college and go to New Hampshire because the need was great. So I surrendered to that, and I was an assistant pastor for 2 years in Maryland. And then when we left there in 1991, we moved to Manchester, kind of sight unseen. We had surveyed the town, taken information from the Chamber of Commerce, subscribed to the newspaper while we were still in college. So it was a couple of years getting to this point. And we came with $800 and we got an apartment, got a couple of jobs, just real, menial jobs, got settled for about 6 months, surveyed the churches in the area, attended a real good church, which we're still friends with in the area. And then we rented a building for $350. Our security deposit was $350, and got a box of gospel tracts, stamped them, and started winning souls, visiting people. In 1992, in June, we started, and that was 32 years ago. We're in our fourth building. We rented a small building at first, then we rented a bigger building. My wife and I worked full time for about 12 years, and then we bought our first building in the year 2000, still working at a job, pastoring the church. And then in 2014, we bought our current building, and we paid it off a couple of years ago. So we're debt free, and just happy to be here. We have missionaries from our church out on the foreign field that were saved here, and another family that's gotten sent out of our church. So I'm excited about what God's doing. We have a young church now. We have a lot of babies, a lot of children, a lot of young families.
Amen. We like the ones that are reaching young families. That's good, and that's probably how we got connected. Dave went through some of our training, and I appreciate. I always appreciate you. You have a always have a zeal. Whenever I'm talking to you, you're always like either going out visiting somebody, or you just came back from soul winning, or you got somebody out going to do something. So you've always been very aggressive, and I appreciate that. But the thing that I also have noticed about you is you have a head for the details within the building too. You're the management side of things. And probably about a year ago, we met and you kind of discovered the using connection cards and some of that. Could you tell me kind of how those worked for you, and what was the sort of the best benefit of those things?
Sure. So I still have a whole pack of connection cards, and I alphabetized them at one point. I have another stack somewhere else according to last names. So I did different colors for different weeks, different subjects, until I ran out of colors, and I used the same ones again. And so on the front, I'd have a place where people could put their personal information. And that way, when everyone's filling them out all at the same time, they didn't feel that they were, being segregated and doing something that, no one else was doing. So they would put their name, email, address, phone number, new information, or first-time guest. And then I would ask them different questions, and I would tell them during the announcement time, I said, I want to be more than just your preacher preaching at you. I want to be your pastor. And
Hmm.
there's a difference. So this helps me pastor you by knowing what your needs are. And so I would ask them, for example, and every week was a little different. A good subject for an upcoming sermon would be. And so I've always tried to have my finger on the pulse of the church and see, where are people? Are they encouraged? Are they hurting? Are they sick? Do they need motivation, and so you have to preach what God wants you to preach. But if 10 people have the same problem, then maybe that needs to be addressed. And so I'd ask them, here's one, this person answered fear and anxiety, different subjects, temptation, um, vanity and vexation. What does that mean in Ecclesiastes? Taking a stand even when others will not. I'm just going through this, just at random. Judging others. Good subject would be answered prayer, God's timing. Then on the back, I put What's your life verse? Do you have a life verse? What is it? Why is it special to you? What is the significance? And it gets them to, tell me this person said, um, this person's significance of John 3:16 was it brought my Catholic upbringing crashing down. And then I asked, what makes the average person stop to think about God or eternity? And so, then I had one, can I count you in? Yes, count me in on the Pie and Praise Wednesday service at 7 p.m. Then a checkbox. Today, I'm admitting to God that I'm a sinner in need of a Savior. I'm trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior for the first time. Or a checkbox under that. I know that I've been born again and I need to be scripturally baptized. Please contact me about this important step in my growth as a Christian. Then another one, I will pray for the people to view the gospel film, which is a QR code that we had from an evangelist with his permission to put on our gospel track, and they could watch that as we pass these out as receiving the result of receiving the true meaning of Christmas at the parade on December 3rd. So some opportunities for people to acknowledge I need to be saved, or I am saved, or I'm saved and I'm not baptized, or I'll pray for somebody to be saved. So all different things. And I asked a survey on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say the significance in order of importance are these social issues in our community? And I put in, and I took a whole series on Wednesday night and taught on these different subjects according to how people ranked them and what they were thinking, social drinking and alcohol, depression, transgenderism, communism, new age, witchcraft, music, young people and technology, social media, and then other, so they could kind of elaborate on that and let me know what they were thinking. But these are just some of the ideas, and every week you have to come up with a new, more creative thought, and you just, how can I get people to think and engage and let me know, what's important to them, as well as I created an email database where people, sometimes new people won't give you their address because they're afraid, or their phone number. But most of the time they'll give you their email because it can go into their spam folder and they don't care. So I'd send an email, just let them know, hey, I am praying for you. And I would, and encourage them that way and reach out to them. So, those are a couple ideas. I got a bunch more if you want me to keep elaborating, but
Oh, these are excellent. No, that's good. I really, you mentioned the email thing. If all right, hey, I wanted to break in here partway through this. There's more of Dave, and then I have his contact information as well coming up here, and then I have a little something, a special kind of offer for you. Something that he mentioned something here. He just finished talking about this, and I wanted to kind of jump in and kind of expand on this just a little bit, and then we'll get back to him. I was asking him about that, and he said you got to do this every week, and you got to kind of work on this every week and kind of get things done, because you have to kind of think, how can I get them engaged? And that engagement word is the probably one of the things that is going to help with these bad habits. Again, the habits here, the just sit habit. Okay, somehow you need to get people more engaged, and if they're just sitting and they're not engaged, you need some type of device. And I mean, usually people will stand up when you say, let's stand and sing or stand and pray or whatever. But the idea is to move them beyond sitting. And the connection card, and we'll dive into a little bit more at the conclusion. I'll give you some examples, is a great way to do that, to keep a person from just sitting. They actually have to do something with their hands. They look at it, and there's some options for them on the connection card. And so that really helps with this engagement thing. And then the idea of getting them to another step. And part of engagement is not just like in the service, like stand up and sit down and sing and pray. I mean, that would all be in the world of engagement, but the world of engagement goes beyond Sunday. Okay, it goes to Monday. And I often tell guys, I'm working with pastors, it's like, hey, how much Monday you got in your sermon? How much Monday you putting in there? Okay, which is the application, which is like, hey, we got to make something happen. And a connection card can have multiple, in fact, he's going to give some examples here in a minute, but multiple examples of many, many, many things that you can do that create engagement that is not just like in the service, it's stuff after the service or during the week. And I really like his ideas. He'll do that in about 4 more minutes here once we get back into it. And that last bad habit that we have is sort of that no relationship thing, you know. And some people are wounded and hurt and some of that. And I understand there's been times when I've not wanted to really interact. But folks, the beginning of healing is sharing your feeling. In other words, we are relational people, and we do need to talk. And we can't help somebody if they won't speak to us or if we won't listen. And connection cards, and I'll go into some real specific details here on how to begin to build relationships with people by using a connection card. And before I get all the way back to Dave here, just one more thing. We created, and this is for you, we created a little engagement sheet here. It's like a little 2-page thing. I'll show it to you a little clearer here in a minute. But it is to help you with engagement. It has about 20 different ideas to kind of create that engagement. And it really works just like this with the connection card. So you can get that. I'll put the address on the screen. You can just on your phone or just however you do your access on the internet, just go to reachkeep.com/engagement / the word reachkeep, then com, then engagement, and with a slash there. Anyway, I'll get it on the screen. But I think this will be helpful. So, all right, now let's get back to Dave. What is your procedure? Do you email them after every service, or do you email an answer to a question, or what are you doing with their email?
I haven't been so good on a particular thing with the email. I guess another additional thing that we've done, and we've used the connection card and another business size card, is Flock Note. So you might be familiar with that, where it's a group chat type of thing. And if they want to connect with the church and be part of that, then they contact the Flock Note app and they put it on their phone. So we can send out on, whatever basis we'd like, weekly basis, an update, maybe something that's going on. So, and then I can get back whether I got a text message back or somebody responded to that or an email to that. So I'll send an email, like if someone's missing from church, and maybe they didn't give me their address or something, and I can't go visit them, I'll at least send them an email and let them know, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying for you, I care about you. So, I haven't done as good, but I did get a lot of emails that way that I wouldn't have gotten any other way.
That's good. No, yeah, and we've found that to be true. Email, and then if you can get their mobile phone number on there too, sometimes that works, and you can send them something right after the service. So really good. Now, real quick, what is your procedure for kind of building these cards? Do you part of your sermon, do you think of this, or is it just something you do with maybe a couple staff people? Go, oh, let's ask you a question about what they want, and then are they printed earlier in the week, or how do you go about printing and giving them out to everybody?
Yes, I would ask a couple people in the church, some of our staff, some of our key men, maybe my wife, what are some things that we could put on a connection card that would be engaging for people. We had them printed up during the week, and then I would pass them out during the morning service, as well as collect them up before the service is done. Not have them put it in an offering plate or hang on to it, but collect them all at the same time. So it's kind of like not targeting a new person or a visitor, but everybody's doing this. So they kind of feel that they're included, but they're not being looked upon exclusively.
Yeah, good. And that is one of the things is everybody's filling one out, then everybody's handing them in at the same time. The visitors are not any different. So this essentially is you're picking up visitor information on all of this, as well as, and I really like what you said, Dave, there about, I don't want to be just your preacher. I want to be your pastor. And to find that personal information from these people. And I'm sure people have shared some things that you wouldn't have never known. I mean, because not everybody has I mean, you can't talk to everybody after church, you know. How's that worked for you? Has that been really helpful for you as becoming more the pastor of the people as opposed to just the speaker guy?
Yeah, it has because, some people want to talk when they're in church and you've got, 100 plus people to talk to, and you only have so much time in the day. And so sometimes people stay around after the line of people goes down in the lobby when you're shaking hands, and they'll tell you some more things that you normally wouldn't get to talk about. But this card gives you an avenue to start a conversation, or to answer a question that someone has, or to meet a need, or to understand maybe where a person's coming from when you don't have that in the brief amount of time that you're between Sunday school and church. You got 15 minutes, and there's just no way
Yeah.
to engage everybody and try to answer every question or meet every need. So it helps me also to pray for people, because there may be a problem that they can put on paper that it's really, and I tell the people, I say, look, when ushers collect these connection cards, I want you guys to put these right on my desk, okay? And the door's locked, so nobody's going to go through them. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to see them. So it's not going to be out there in a public, arena.
Hmm. Yeah, I've found that it helps me to be a better listener, and I'm not in the sense of my ear there, but you're reading about more of an intimate need of somebody that sometimes would just you just wouldn't know that they were having knee surgery, or they were struggling with their thoughts, or they were you know ill, or going on a trip, or there's all sorts of things that you learn from these cards. So that's great. What else? Anything else from the cards that have been kind of a blessing to you that you'd like to share?
Well, I think this particular one, I will pray for our list of missionaries 3 times a week. So
Mm,
getting them to do something that's eternal, that is them walking with God and helping our missionaries, which, then I had to keep an updated list of our missionaries, which we have out in the lobby with their needs, and sometimes even their email addresses. And last night in Bible study, I read the missionary prayer letter, and I just said, okay, how many of you, I need 3 or 4 people to email this missionary in Poland this week. And so I had probably 10 people that said they would. So maybe I'll get 3 or 4, but just, getting them to engage with the ministry, with missionaries, asking them questions. Have you used a Bible reading app on your phone in the last 7 days? Then would a Bible reading app help you? And then walking them through that, where they can, be spiritual during the week. It's not just the contact I'm making on Sunday, but it's giving them a follow through on Monday, on Tuesday, and it's something that God can do in their heart rather than showing up and punching a card for a service. It's really changing their life.
that's good. You said another word there that piqued my interest, the word engagement. And I
Mhm.
think it is so important that we do that. And these have obviously helped you engage with your people. I mean, you're learning to contact them, to pray with them, to preach topics that are helpful for them, to answer questions, and all sorts of different things there. So this is excellent. Dave, I appreciate you taking time for this. If someone wants to get in touch with you or come by your church, can you give us a little bit of your contact info and where exactly you are?
Sure. We're in Manchester, New Hampshire, 52 Concord Street. Contact information, gbcmanchester.com is our website. gospelbaptistnh@gmail.com is our email. Phone number, if people still use phone, 603-624-2537. And we just had one of our men put up a YouTube channel, Gospel Baptist NH. However that works, I'm not sure, but
Well,
he does.
good, good. We will take all that and print that up and put that in the show notes, as well as we have a connection card guide that kind of when you went through our training about a year ago, we talked about some of this
Yes.
and kind of how to do some of this. So if someone's interested, they can find a link to that guide there as well. So I appreciate you taking
Great.
time for me, brother. So God bless, and we'll
Thank
we'll sign out here. So. All right. I hope that was enjoyable. Dave's a good friend. Will be heading out to his church here in about 6 months, doing some ministry team training for him, kind of some consulting and coaching. As I mentioned, he went through our one of our coaching platforms that we have, and really enjoyed getting to know him, and my kind of guy. I want to talk a little bit about connection cards, what exactly they are and how they work. This is a really, really important tool in your church. If I were starting a church or going to a new church or doing anything, one of the first things I would do is get these things going. They create a lot of unity. You kind of really get to grab hold of what's going on with your people. As Dave mentioned, you get to be more of a pastor than just a preacher, because you know a lot more. Many of our churches, people come forward at the end and make decisions and things like that, but you get way, way more information on these cards. I mean, it just all, excuse me, I better cut that out. You get way more information on these cards than you do just in that way. So the connection cards are a powerful tool that takes a little bit of work, because you're really printing something up and you've got some questions on them, and some blanks and stuff, and you can kind of sort of streamline them a little bit. If you're interested in this, of course, listen to this training. We have several things on our podcast as well on this, but I wanted to just kind of give you real quick the connection card guidebook. I'll get the link to this so that you can get this. But this is I think 6 or 8 pages of stuff that we put together with a whole bunch of samples of how exactly to do all of this stuff. So you can just read up and read and read and read. And then there's pictures of different ones and how to do stuff. And then we have some resource links. There's a whole bunch more pictures. We have some resource links also that we'll have along with this that you can get. But all of this would be just really helpful stuff for you to have if you're considering moving towards a connection card setup. They're basically a card that is printed out every week, and they're different every week, at least one side is, and every single person gets a card. Now, you can read about that, and we have more training about that that is accessible to you. But let me just kind of go through what they do, because these bad habits, the just sit type of habit, we'll take that one right off the bat, is one of those things that really it creates a level of interaction. So we have on each of the cards here, we have a place for them to put their prayer request. And so when we start the service, everybody gets one of these in their bulletin, and sometimes we actually hand them out, but they're usually in their bulletin, sermon notes thing that we hand out. And we ask them to go ahead and take their card out. Just go ahead. Good morning, folks. Good to have you here. Or, well, it's usually after a song or something, but go ahead and take your connection card out. And on the top right there, it says prayer requests, my prayer requests. And if you would like to share a prayer request, how many of you know someone that's hurting, someone that needs prayer, God needs to intervene in some situation? Okay, good. Then go ahead and write that down, and our staff and myself will be praying for those specifically by name and going through those every one of these. So go ahead and write that down. And if you'd flip it over on the other side, there is a place for your name. And if you put your name, then we will add you in our prayer. There are also a few other boxes and things, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the service. So basically what we've done here is we've got people engaged, and we have pens and everything ready for them so they can fill those things out, and everybody does their card and shares their prayer request right there. We have a huge percentage of these that are turned back in, and it's in the 80-90% range that people turn them in. Sometimes a husband and wife will just do one, that type of thing. But we have some ways to kind of help you with that too. So it's all part of this engagement and helping them to not just be sitting there and doing very little. We want them to do something. And the other thing that it has with it, which kind of gets into the next step thing a little bit, but it's the things that are on there. There are many different things that they can check off or sign up for right there on the card. This particular one has 5 different things that are going on. Now, let me just read these so you kind of get the idea what these are. All right, this one says, I am interested in the Easter baptism. Please get me an information packet. Okay, it's really, they need something, so they've engaged. They're not just sitting there. We're showing them that church is about engagement. I already have the baptism information packet. Would like to be part of the baptism on Easter. So what we do is give out information about baptism, and then if they are interested, they check this box, and then we do some interviews, and that's a whole nother process. The next one, we are planning on attending the couples event coming up, basically is what it says. And so this is a place for them to sign up. Now, this is not necessarily the next step, and we're going to get the next step stuff because some of these are spiritual decisions that they make. But it's just like, I'm going to sign up, or I'm going to, be involved. In fact, these next couple are more volunteer type things. I plan to help with the food distribution on Wednesday from 1:30 to 6. Okay, so that is a very specific volunteer thing, and we believe that volunteerism is a part of the Christian word for it here is service, serving your local church. But volunteerism is a part of discipleship. When you get people involved doing things in the local church, making an impact in their community, it makes a huge difference in, of course, the workers to do whatever you need to do, but it makes a difference in their life. And someone mentioned to me today at church, they were talking about, hey, it seems like almost everybody here today is serving in some way or another. And it was just like, really kind of cool to look around. It's like, wow, everyone was kind of looking. I mean, it was like, yeah, we get a lot of people involved, and the connection card is a great way to get those people signed up. And then this last one is today. Today I understand, and I am placing all my trust in Calvary's Christ. And this was part of a series we did on Calvary and the Christ of Calvary. And so we had a gospel invitation there, and they check-marked that box, and then we would then follow up with them and talk with them and meet with them, kind of go through stuff, make sure they understood everything. So that is one of the things that kind of combats that thing of just sitting. We don't believe that people should just come to church and sit. They should come and have some type of action. Now, we have the stand up and sit down when we sing, and, there's a little bit of interaction there, but we want to move into their week a little bit, and we want to move into their life a little bit. And that kind of takes us right into this next one, the bad habit, and that is this idea that there's not a next step. There are many things that we do in life that there's not a next step. I mean, you go to the junior high basketball game. It's not like when you're done, you're going to sign up and be a coach or help the kids. I mean, you may drive them home if they're your kids, and that would be your next step. But for the most part, there's a lot of things we do that just stop. And church can fall into that category in people's mind. It's not that we, the leadership, no, we want things to go on, but it is a bad habit that you just kind of come. You watch a show, you go to a ball game, you go to a picnic, you go to an event, you just go to those, and then boom, you're done. And we do not want our church to be that way. We want there to be a high level of interaction and service, as I mentioned. And we believe service should not be just something you go to, the first service, but service should be something that you do. I mean, you're interacting. And so that's why we have all these different sign-up opportunities on our card. So if you're wondering what to put on the card, your bulletin and your core values would be your way to start. You would just kind of look like, hey, people are serving in the community. Like, we have a core value of community engagement. So many times we have something in our bulletin that has to do with community engagement. We're going to go to the county fair and do something. We're going to go pick up trash somewhere. We're going to, help some little old lady and rake the leaves in her yard or whatever it happens to be. We believe in putting people into a position where the next step is real obvious and they can make it. It's not like the next step is, I'm going to go to the mission field. It's like, well, that's obvious that we need people at the mission fields, but it's impossible to take that step for the average person right off the bat. It's a challenge to do that. The point being is it needs to be a clear next step, but it also needs to be, especially if you have a lot of new believers like we have, it needs to be just there needs to be a level of simple next steps. Now, there are surrender to the mission field steps, and there are, I'm going to, give my whole life and dedicate my body to God. I mean, there's a lot of heavy duty, Romans chapter 12, give yourself to God type things out there. There's no doubt about that. But for a lot of people, it's the next step. I will come help move food boxes. Or oftentimes, we do things right after church. We have a food ministry, and we like the food ministry because we like food, okay? But it goes out to the people of the community for the most part. But we also like it because it gives us simple, easy, obvious steps into service. So we will have after church, we need to carry these 20 boxes from the pallets, to the food bank shelves. We need, several guys to help out. If you could help out right after church, we're meeting right back here. Bob's going to take you back there and move those boxes. And so it's a very simple thing, and they get the fulfillment of doing things. And many times people bring their kids to that because they want their kids to learn to serve. And so the connection card solves the bad habit of no next step. And there are many people that sat in our churches today, and there was no next step. They shut it off, went home, did whatever they do, move on for the other 167 hours of the week, and they'll come back and catch it again, and there's not a next step. And we need to have something, a device that helps us do that, and the connection cards really are a great way to kind of break that habit of not having anything to do. So we create things. And it takes a little bit of thought, to make some of these things happen. But Pastor, you put a lot of thought into your sermon. Don't you want your sermon to live on and make it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Absolutely. We say every Sunday, solve a problem. You need to have something. And part of that problem is people need to step forward in their ministry, in their service, and we need to have next steps. In fact, on our card, and it'd be kind of hard for you to see, but right here, it says, my next step. So it is actually part of our, this is my prayer, or my info, my next step over, and this there is my prayer request. Okay, so, but my next step, there needs to be something, and it needs to be obvious, and it needs to be simple enough to do. You'll get big steps eventually. I hope you have, people, make huge steps in their witnessing and their, living holy life and giving up things and surrendering to Jesus and, letting God transform their lives. There's all sorts of things. Missions is a huge step. I think you'll get all that. But people start with little bitty steps first. So we got to have some little bitty steps there. So, and Dave's really good at kind of those engagement steps. I like those ones. I will read my Bible app or something. That was a good thing, for devotions, that type of stuff. So the last really bad habit in church is the folks that have, and hopefully you don't have someone that's got all three of these, okay? They just sit and they don't have a step, and they're they don't want a relationship. They got the walls up, and they're trying to keep anybody from coming in. And that happens a lot, and it's out there, but it's a relational blockade, I call it. And if you have some people that have that relational blockade, then one of your heart's desires as a church leader, and I'm not sure if you're a pastor or senior pastor and a helper of some level, but one of your desires, and I know that you know this, is if you can get in and get a conversation and get them talking and get them to open up, and then you can eventually get into their heart, and make some spiritual progress. And that's what we're about. We live and breathe and dream making impact and changing people's lives, given the Word of God and letting it get into their lives. But we have to give it, and we have to talk to them. We have to shake their hand. And so connection cards can break into the relational thing. And there's a couple ways that it works. And one of them is the idea when they share a prayer request. That's oftentimes a very intimate thing. We've had people share things like, hey, pray for, my aunt or my grandmother, who's got cancer or whatever, and they've never shared anything before, and this is like their first time. And when they share that request, because we have all their data here, what we do is when we pray for that request is we then send them a text. We grab our little phone here, open that thing out, and do a little magic on it, and we send them a text and say, I just prayed for your grandmother. We had our prayer meeting at our staff today, and we prayed for your grandmother. Please let me know how she is doing. Something along that line. And that is starting to break into the relational thing. It's starting to work in. So when they share prayer requests on the card, then you take time and get back to them with and they should have, email and phone number right there. You get back to them and let them know that, hey, I prayed for your, little nephew, his surgery that he had today. And you will start to break into that thing. What do they hate? People don't, I'm trying to get this right, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So taking time, texting somebody, just prayed for your grandmother, just prayed for your situation, and how are things going, and then try to end it with a question. Because if you end it with a question about something they're very concerned about and very knowledgeable about, their grandmother's surgery, we'll say, they can answer back and say, it went really well, or it got postponed, or the doctor has COVID and we can't do it till next week, whatever it happens to be. But they respond back. And then instead of this, you have somebody, they're typing back to you, and you are communicating with them, and you are starting to build that relationship, which is going to make such a difference in your church when you have built good, solid relationships with all the people there. So make sure that you respond to their prayer requests with a text or an email, and if appropriate, even a phone call, or a visit. I mean, that happens a lot too, but you get a lot of cards. It's hard to visit everybody, but you can text them all and stay in touch with them, and you'll start to break in relationally. One other thing that we do, and I don't know if we've got any of these that have it right here. I'll flip through. Okay, here's one right here. All right. We have a great big phone number written on the bottom here of this particular one. I'm not going to get it too close because it's someone's phone number. But what we often do is during the teaching time, okay, so say you're teaching, on a particular topic like grief, how to handle grief, the loss of a loved one. Very legitimate topic, okay? And you're teaching people, don't get bitter, get better, and you're giving them, the Lord is my shepherd and comfort. But in your sermon preparation, while you were doing all that, you came across like a bunch of verses that were really good, or a certain psalm that really touched your heart, or maybe even like a website that had good practical stuff on how to handle grief of a loss of a loved one that you weren't with when you lost them. In other words, you couldn't be there to comfort them when they died. And that's a real common problem. People dying far away and you're hurting, but you can't be with the family. So maybe you found a website or a good set of verses. What you do is partway through your sermon, you say, hey, I found this really good website. I've got this really good list of verses. I've got this great psalm, and it means so much to me. And I want to share that resource with you. But the sermon's only we have this much time, and I have this much information. So I'm not going to carry on until preach till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I do want to get this to you. And if you would like to have the website address for this grief, remedy, I would like to share that with you. And here's what I'd like you to do. Just on your card, right there at the bottom, just write the word grief, okay? And I'll know, especially if your phone number's on there, I'll know, and I will send you the website to that grief counseling website. Or just put your phone number real big. That's what we did on this one, apparently. Put your phone number real big on the bottom, and what I'll do is when church is over, I'll have all the cards, and I'm going to sit down, and every one of you, I'm going to send you that website so that you will have that. And by 2 o'clock this afternoon, I'll have that done, and you will have the website on grief. And so you then you go to their number, and you paste the grief website in there, and then a question. Let me know if I can pray for you about this. Is there someone particular that you lost and I can be in prayer for? Ask a question. Is there a way I could help with the grief? Is there someone I could call or an additional person I could pray for? You ask a question. And Mr. Strong Arm Blockade here, okay, will start to open up. And it's because you have a device to get them opened up. Okay, you created a device. And all of these little tactics, kind of that we call them, with connection cards are the kind of things that will take your ministry way further than you imagine. I mean, when you start to really connect with that. And I've had many times when I had the phone numbers here and all that, and I had, secretary help or whatever, hey, here's the cards with a phone number. Could you just paste this and send it to them and go ahead and ask them if they have a question or whatever, try to connect with them. And I've had other people kind of on a team sort of minister, so there's a lot of ways you can do this. But this idea here of there are broken things in our church, okay? And the broken things are the people that don't move or do anything, the ones that, are not really taking another step anywhere, and the ones that are kind of doing the blockade. And connection cards can fix broken things, okay? They just can. And so if you would like to get that brochure there, the 6-page thing, connection card, that's reachkeep.com/connection. And the thing I mentioned earlier is the engagement worksheet, and it has about 20 different little simple ideas to help you be more engaging in your message and in your Sundays, and many of them are kind of tied to the connection card. That is at reachkeep.com/engagement. So /connection/engagement. So it should be easy for you to find all of those things. We'll make sure that we get those links here for you. So I hope you've enjoyed our time here today. If this is helpful, do me a favor and hit a thumbs up. But if this would be helpful for someone else, that's kind of the thing that we really want to do, is try to spread the word and help other pastors in some of these areas. I have found, so I work with pastors, many of them, they know how to preach because you just got to get that done every week. And so they've got their preaching done, but some of the management and some of the little pieces like this are, they kind of escape somebody, and they're never trained in that area. And we do a lot of training in that area. You can find more information about our training there at our regular website, reachkeep.com. So I hope you enjoyed the time with Dave. If you're a friend of Dave, welcome aboard. Make sure you subscribe here to our channel. And if you'd like to get in touch with him, all the information, he rattled it off, but I have it in the notes beneath. You'll be able to find it right there and grab that information, be able to connect with him. If you're up in the New England area, be good. If you're in New England in about 6 months, I'll be out there, and looking forward to being out there. So anyway, this is Mike at the Reach Keep podcast, and if you want some of our shorter format training, we've got a lot of different training that's found on this channel as well. So just kind of scroll around. We got hundreds of videos, so we've been doing this for a long time. I'm glad to be able to help you. So thanks for being with us, and good day to you, or good evening to you, or good morning to you, whatever part of the world you happen to be in, and we will catch you next time. Make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell, the notification thing, and that'll get us connected. So take care, and we'll see you next time.